Hi guys, today we're going to modify the demo sample of the game of Space Invaders, which you can download from FXGL Games repository on GitHub, along with the source code of FXGL. Now, it uses Maven build file, so you can use pretty much any IDE you want. Using Maven, it will download the necessary version of FXGL, and you can then, after you've done modifying it, just type maven package, which will package all the source code along with the assets into a standalone executable jar, which you can easily run afterwards. So in the previous tutorials, we've covered pretty much some basics, the foundation of FXGL in terms of entities, components, and controls. And today, I thought it'd be a good idea to have some form of video just showing basically how to add stuff on top of the things that we already have. So, for example, the Space Invaders Demo, which currently is looking like this. So from 0.2 FXGL, it will require you to have a profile associated with your particular game. So just type, press new, and then select the one that you want. I'm going to disable sounds because they're going to interfere with me talking probably. And you can click continue, although you shouldn't have continue because you continue is based on the existing save files. So if there are no save files, continue will be disabled by default. Now this is what we currently have. So recently I've added those walls which block enemy bullets, but let your bullets pass through. So this is pretty much the only addition so far. And typically these types of games have something like power-ups or bonuses when you kill a certain amount of enemies. And I thought it would be nice to have a bonus or bonus life, so that when you kill enough enemies, you get a bonus life, basically. Yeah. So this is rather large, but should be okay if we split the code up. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is to add new entity type, because as you can see, we have 4 types: player, enemy, bullet, and wall, and obviously bonus type is neither, so we'll have to define something new. Just going to call it plain bonus. Now, bonuses can be of many types themselves, which means that we need to be able to distinguish between a bonus life and a bonus that gives you a higher attack rate, for example. Which means we'll have to define another enum and just call it bonus type. We're going to have attack rate and life. So, and life is the one that we're going to implement in this video. As you can see, this entity factory is the place which creates entities for us. So background, player, enemy, bullet, wall, explosion, and essentially all entities are, get created here. So that means it's a good place to start for creation of our new entity, which is going to be a bonus. So it is going to be entity, new bonus. The values we're interested in when we instantiate a this particular entity is position and bonus type. Now we're going to use game entity as opposed to using raw entity because game entity defines certain components like position, type, view components that we need for our new bonus component or bonus entity. Bonus, new game entity, which doesn't have any parameters in its constructor, so it's no argument constructor. Bonus, get type. So the first thing we're going to set is the type, and the type is going to be entity type bonus. Now, it doesn't really say what kind of bonus it is, which means we need to define new component, and we're going to go to package component, which has all of our components. Currently, there's HP, which is I'm using for the health of walls. So if a certain amount of hits that a wall can take, and this is the component that defines that. Invincible component defines whether a player is invincible or not during the time it's just been hit, so it's invincible for a second. Owner, it's something to do with the bullet. Yeah, we define owner component as the type that of entity that shot the bullet. So we could distinguish between player bullets and enemy bullets. So we're going to create a new component, which is essentially Java class, and subtype component, which gives us the basically subtype. Extends object component, I think. It's going to be object pretty much. We define it as object, but it would be nice to use enums. So public subtype component, which takes object type, and we'll call the superconstructor with that instance. So this is pretty much it for defining a component with object component as the superclass. It is essentially a field. So if you were to create a class and have a field string, for example, in entity component system paradigm, you would use object component and pass string here. So pretty much like having composition over inheritance, although slightly differently. Right, so now we have subtype component, and we can now do something like that. Bonus add component, new subtype component, and then we pass the subtype, which is bonus type. Right, we don't actually need to do that because we are passing the type, so just pass type in there. Like I said, although it's object, very generic, the usage of enums makes it easy to then compare stuff because we can use referential equality because bonus type life will always be that particular object rather than being a new object. So if you're using objects as types, then you're pretty much on your own to do your own equality check. Now for what else? Position, get position component, set value x and y. What else? We need view component, and we're going to set view because we can then pass this boolean, which means generate bounding box from the view, which is what we need because we don't want to be bothered creating our own bounding boxes. Simply because the view is going to be rectangular-ish anyway. So entity view, and this is where we pass our JavaFX node, which can be pretty much anything. Right, what do we have as textures? Well, I got life, so for lack of a better texture, I'm going to use the one that's already been used before, so life PNG. You might want to actually have a proper texture for bonuses so that they're different than the ones that we already have in the game, but it's up to you. So set view, entity view, pass through so that it will generate bounding box when the view is assigned. We need to make sure it's also collidable. So bonus add component, because we want to be able to collect those bonuses by going over their textures really on the screen. So when the player collides with the bonus is being picked up. This is typically what happens. So we need to set collidable component true so that afterwards we could check for collision events. Right. Return bonus. We also want the bonuses to fall down because enemies are up there and there's no way a player can get there. So what we could do, or what we ideally should have done, was create a new control for a bonus. But because we already have a projectile control which is being defined by FXGL, because it's quite generic control that you could use for many things. So I'm going to add a control, new projectile control, which takes direction, and direction is down, so it's 0 and 1, 1 being down in the y-axis, and speed. Speed should be something like bullet speed, maybe slower, 7.5. And that should be it, if I'm not forgetting anything, for bonuses. Now if we come back to our sort of main, as it were, we need to have, right, we know when the enemy is destroyed, so enemy killed. So this is how you handle certain events within the game. We take or obtain a reference to event bus and then add event handler. So when enemy is killed, then that method is called, which is right here. So we increase the number of enemies destroyed and we set score plus 200. Right. What we can do here is do a simple random check. Random less than 10%. And we're going to spawn our bonus. Spawn bonus. We could create a method called spawn bonus or just use the entity factory directly, although I do prefer to have a separate method. So event, yeah, that could be actually problematic because we don't actually know the position of the enemy that was killed, which means we need to create a new type of event which will carry that data for us. And the enemy is killed. Actually, we don't really need to have position of the enemy if we want the bonus to be dropped at random position. Yeah, we'll just do that. So we're going to spawn bonus. We're going to pass in the position, which is going to be a random. So random multiplied. So this is the x, which is get width. So it's going to be 1. So it's going to be within the visible viewport of the game. Get height, probably want to be divided by 2, so it's not spawning underneath the player. Somewhere to the top. Maybe even divide by 3. And then the bonus type. For now, I'm just going to hardcode bonus type life because we haven't implemented either, but we're going to implement only life for this tutorial. Spawn bonus is the method that we're going to define now. Where are my spawns? Yeah, spawn background, enemy, player, spawn bonus, which takes X and Y, and then bonus type. So what we're essentially doing is delegating the actual creation to Entity Factory, which we really could have called directly. It would be pretty much the same line, just single line of code, because we already create by using new bonus X, Y, and the type. That gives us the entity, and we're going to add it to the game world. So this will create our bonus entity at random position. Yeah. If we wanted to have a bonus spawn at a particular position, so say when where the last enemy was hit or killed, we would go to collision, bullet enemy handler, and this is where we know which enemy died. So this is the enemy which has been killed, and currently we're only firing new argument event, so basically event which doesn't carry any data. We could have created a subclass of game event called I know enemy killed event, which would have one field of entity as enemy, and then you could query that in here. So that event would have been now unkilled event, and then you would get an entity from that event and create bonus where the enemy was killed. For now, we're using random values, and we probably want to keep that within the game, so we're going to do something like that, so it's not going too much to the right. That should do. That should spawn. Let's do 75% so that it's easily seen if it's working. Right, so those are the things that are being dropped down are the bonuses. So they're spawned in random places and they drop down, but we don't catch them because there are no collision handlers yet. So we'll need to define our collision handler between, I typically call them by entity names and then attach handler to them. So it's bonus and player handler. Extends, what is it, collision handler. Yeah. So it's pretty much just like that. Except we do not do that. Don't really need this. So the first type is bonus. Make sure to keep the order because that will define how the callback will be called. So that's bonus, and then that's player. Then we're going to override a method called onCollisionBegin. So that method will be called when the collision will just start. So basically when the collision just happened. That is bonus and that is player. So the order in that method, the order of parameters is defined by the order of types that you pass in when constructing the handler. Bonus. Now we need to, so basically this is where they collided. We need to check the bonus type. So type bonus get component unsafe. We can use unsafe because we definitely know that it will contain subtype component and get value. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Bonus type. You can either convert it to bonus type or simply use it as an object, or as a raw object. It doesn't really matter when we do the referential equality check. So if type, actually now that we've converted or cast it to bonus type, we could do a switch. Switch on type and let ID generate missing switch branches. So attack rate, we're just going to say, actually this will never happen because we don't have any attack rate yet. Although it would be a good idea to just say not implemented yet. As for life, we're going to generate a new event. Actually, I'm going to create entirely new event so that you can see how to define your own events rather than using one of the standard ones. So we're going to call it bonus pickup event, which extends game events. And we need to have a constructor that matches the super constructor. Now the other thing is we're going to need event type, which is bonus pickup event. This is how JavaFX knows the hierarchy of events. So we're going to call it any, and that is the super type of that event is game event any. Bonus event. And now we're going to create the actual bonus pickup event, which is going to be called, sure, we don't really need that. That will suffice. But we do need type of the event. So this is going to be bonus type. So instead of handling this here, it might be beneficial for us to handle it in the actual game rather than in the handler, because we might have certain things like attack rate. Then we would need to obtain reference to player, although we do have it here. But other things, more complex bonuses, it would be harder to implement. So we're going to give the control over to the main app via this event. Get type. And when constructing it, we are going to pass bonus type. So we first create or instantiate the super type, and then we capture our own type. Right, so this is our bonus pickup event, which we can now fire. So there is no need for that. I'm just going to copy it and remove. Game application, this is how you obtain services, global services available everywhere, because this is the static access. So it's essentially like service locator. There's type, what do we need? Yeah, event bus. Fire event, new bonus pickup event, and then we pass in bonus pickup event any. We don't really have any events, any bonus pickup events, because I don't think we will, because I can't think of any. Because for game events, like you could have any as the root of events, and then player got killed, enemy killed, and so on. The bonus pickup event in itself is kind of very specific. So I doubt that we even need this in the constructor, but we'll keep it there anyway. Right, so we obtained the service, the event bus service, and we are going to fire this event on collision between bonus object and player object or entity. And that is pretty much it for the handler. Handler no longer doesn't do anything. Well, actually, we could remove bonus here because we already know that it's going to be removed anyway once it's been caught by the player. So yeah, I think it's a good place to remove our bonus so that it doesn't fire any more collision events. Right, so we're now going to create a new method for handling those events. Private void on bonus pickup, and we're going to be very specific of the type of the event. And this is where I'm going to paste the thing, which we had over there, and get sign. So this is where we're going to handle the actual event, because, for example, life, it'll be much easier to increment it here. So lives set lives kept +1. This increases the logical state of the game, but we also need to update user interface. We could have made user interface bound, so it's bound to our model, which it should have been, which I'm going to fix in the future. But for now, we're going to do it manually. So UI controller add life. There we go. So we are basically updating our controller, which should work because it doesn't really care. Yeah, it should be fine. We need to call it now, or we need to let the event bus know who's going to handle this method. So event bus add event handler for bonus pickup events, any, and the method that is going to handle this is on bonus pickup. There we go. So it makes it very event driven. Whenever an event happens, we're going to handle it with this particular method. It keeps the code simple-ish, or at least more readable in this particular case. Right, so if I haven't forgotten anything, that should work. Although we first need to lose life. So that we lost a life. Now we need to try and capture 1. Right, we haven't actually added it to the physics world, because we need to let the physics world know that we're interested in a particular collision, which is done in this method called init physics. You could do it pretty much anywhere you want, but having it under physics makes it more consistent, so that other people reading your code may easily find the place where the physics things are handled. Like, right, what was it? No, it's bonus player handler. Yeah. So that should now fire that collision event, which will in turn fire bonus pickup event. Right, we first need to get hit, and now we'll try to capture one of the lives, which is here. Yep, seems to be working. I just regained health or a life so to speak. And just gained another one. This seems to be working generally. Yeah, so I'll leave that another bonus, which was that one, attack rate, which you could. So yeah, I'll leave it up to you to implement. This could be done by simply going to player control. This is the interval or the delay that um, defines how fast you can fire. So if you take that out into an actual variable rather than hardcode, and eventually I'm going to pretty much take all the magic numbers or all the hard-coded values into a set of properties, which will be loaded at one time rather than being hard-coded, so that someone could modify certain values without recompiling the game. So yeah, take that out into a variable called delay, which I'm actually going to do now. Right, actually that wouldn't work because this is called only once, so it will run at this interval all the time. Okay, so a bit more that you need to do rather than just changing one thing. You will need to get rid of that and then do manual checking in here in the onUpdate method by simply updating the value by some sort of accumulator counter by this time per frame, and then when it overflows a certain value, you enable firing. So you just set can shoot to true. And this is the variable that keeps track of whether a player can shoot or not. And then you would that overflow value would depend on a certain variable, which you should be able to change via a method, via an accessor method saying set delay or something similar. And in here, which is the main app, on bonus pickup, instead of that line, you would change, you would obtain player control, which you have access to by just getting player control because there is a reference to it, and by setting an appropriate value. And if you get stuck, just feel free to email me, and eventually I'll be implementing that anyway, so you could just have a look on the FXGL games repository. I think that is it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching.